In this video, I will be going through problems 13 through 15 from the Chapter 3 study guide. So number 13 is to write a simple polynomial in standard form with the following zeros. So what we know is that if the zeros are 6 and 8i, we also have another zero, which is going to be negative 8i. That complex zero of 8i must be complemented with its twin with an opposite sign. This means we're going to write a polynomial. We're going to write each factor. And then multiply things out. So this one I like to do first. This is going to be x squared minus 8ix plus 8ix minus 64i squared. Now we know that I squared equals negative 1. So we have to make a substitution. This is just going to be, these are going to cancel. We get minus 64 times negative 1. So this is x squared plus 64. Okay, so that is the factor that's represented by these zeros. And then we're just going to bring this down right here. And that'll be our p of x. However, we're supposed to write this in standard form. So we're not done. We need to multiply it out. So multiplying it out, we get x cubed plus 64x minus 6x squared minus 384. If we're going to write this in standard form, we've got to put it in standard form. This comes next. And this is our final answer. We must multiply it out. This may very well be a challenge for many people to do number 14. This one is asking us to divide it using long division. The reason why is actually synthetic division doesn't work for this because the second term is not a linear polynomial. So let's set it up. I'm sorry, it's not a linear binomial. So we need to set this up for long division. The problem may feel a little intimidating, but don't let it intimidate you. It's just math. You definitely need to write a placeholder for the x cubed term, but what I'm going to do is multiply something times x squared right here, and that's going to equal 8x to the fourth. And all that's going to be is 8x squared. So 8x squared times x squared is going to give me 8x to the fourth. Then I'm going to multiply this times this term here. I get plus 16 in black, x to the third, and then I'm going to multiply this times that. I get negative 8x squared. Now what we have to remember is we're subtracting the entire polynomial, so that means I am going to just change signs all along the way. So this will actually be like a subtraction problem. This, of course, I get 0, I get negative 16x cubed, and I get negative 29x squared. We'll bring down the 22x, and then we are going to find some number that when we multiply it, we get negative 16x cubed. That'll be negative 16, so we'll put that as part of the quotient. Negative 16x, I'm sorry. So we're going to multiply that by that. We will get 16x cubed, negative 16x cubed. We will multiply this times this. We get negative 32x squared. We multiply this times this, and we get positive 16x. And then we have to subtract everything again. So let's just change the signs of everything. This is going to be a minus sign, which is not very clear, but it'll be minus. And what we get is, we get a 0 here, we get a 3x squared, a 6x, and we're going to bring down the negative 3. And the last thing we're going to do is multiply something times x squared to get 3x squared, and that's just going to be a 3. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times 2x, that's just like this. It's going to give us a 6x, and 3 times negative 1 will just give us a negative 3. So basically, again, we are subtracting this whole thing. So we're subtracting that, and we're changing the sign, and then we add and we get 0. So our quotient is just going to be x squared minus 16x plus 3. The last part of the video really just deals with some really good key vocabulary you have to know. All right? So a coefficient is the number multiplied by a variable in an equation. For instance, something like 2x squared, the coefficient would be 2. I'm putting these in my own words. So a factor is something whole that is multiplied, right? So for instance, 6 has 2 factors. Actually, it's got multiple factors, but 2 times 3. 2 and 3 are both factors. So something like x squared has 2 factors that we can talk about. X times x. X is a factor, right? It has a multiplicity of 2. I really need you to be able to recognize a factor when you see it. So a y-intercept is where the function intercepts the y-axis. And x is always 0 at that place. So, for instance, if we look at a graph and we have it and it's silly, our y-intercept is right here. Okay. So along with our other graph, we might have a graph that looks like this. And perhaps we have a graph that looks like this. This actually has several x-intercepts. We have one here, 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 and here. And it's where y equals 0. Okay, that's how you know you have an x-intercept. And we also call this a 0. We also call it a solution. Okay, it's where x equals, it's where y equals 0. And the last thing is, what is end behavior? Well, end behavior is how the function behaves when x approaches negative infinity and when x approaches infinity. So, for instance, as x goes this way, what happens to y? Does it go down? Well, and then as x approaches infinity, what happens to y on this side? Does it go up or does it go down? So you will have to figure that out and write the correct math notation for whatever scenario you have. So for instance, in this scenario, both go down. So we would say, this is just an example of end behavior. But the definition is right here.